I regret that I rise in opposition to this NDAA because there is a great deal of good in it, but only in Washington must we bring a bill to the floor so that we are able to militarily confront China while at the same time embracing the policies that make the United States more like China. There is no desire on the part of our great armed services chairman and even the Democrats we worked with to have an extension of spying authorities put in this bill when we have already seen those authorities just totally abused. 278,000 violations of the existing law as the FBI has queried information regarding Americans. When the Obama-appointed Inspector General was reviewing whether or not the administration was complying with existing law, they found out we were breaking the law 38 times an hour to extend the authorities for spying that were being violated so that people at the FBI could do queries on their neighbors, their coworkers, their ex-lovers. That does not belong in the National Defense Authorization Act, and maybe we would be able to stomach some short-term extension if the underlying bill looked a little more like the product we sent out of the House of Representatives. With this NDAA conference report, you almost feel like a parent who's sent a child off to summer camp and they've come back a monster. That's what we've done. This bill came back in far worse shape. We had concern over these social justice warriors that were making, salaries in the hundreds of thousands of dollars at DOD, so we put a cap on that at 3 times what a private or airman would make. And we claim that that's still in the bill, but the Senate was able to erode that and say so long as that social justice warrior is assigned any other responsibility, they're able to blow through that cap and waste taxpayer money on something that doesn't enhance our lethality or capability or survivability. We had legislation to eliminate the chief diversity officer at DOD because that was the fountainhead of so many of these woke bad ideas. And yet the House receded on that position. Many of our colleagues were concerned that it seemed when you look at our military bases or installations, they were flying flags that weren't the American flag, that the LGBTQ flag, the Black Lives Matter flag, whatever that flag is with all those pink and black triangles in it. And that desire that we had to have the American flag, the flags of our service branches, that was also surrendered by the House of Representatives to the Senate. We wanted a parent's Bill of Rights in DOD schools so that you wouldn't get the strange material that goes into radical gender ideology or race ideology. That abandoned by the House of Representatives. And so we also expressed a great deal of concern over the censorship that the DOD was funding through a lot of its alliances. We put in our bill a prohibition on marketing through those networks that have engaged in broad-scale censorship. And unfortunately, that was replaced with a report. So instead of stopping the money flowing to censorship through the DOD, we've just asked to be informed about it as it's happening, even though we already know it's happening. That's why we've conducted these investigations. So this bill is insufficient to deal with the structural challenges that we have at the Department of Defense, where they have veered substantially left. There is good in the bill, but it does not deserve an affirmative vote with this just absolutely unnecessary and uncalled for extension of spying authorities that we already know have been abused. I yield back.
We just had the vote on Israel not long ago, and I would ask you, what does the IRS have to do with defending Israel? And yet somehow you guys decided you had to put the IRS cuts in with the Israel bill, and you all voted for it happy as a clam, all right? Let's get away. If you don't like the deal, fine. Vote no. That's cool. But the idea that you're saying, oh, this is just the worst process in the world, apparently you don't like democracy, because that's what democracy is. You compromise, and you work with people, and you do it all the time. Argue against the substance of the bill, but please stop tearing down this institution and tearing down this democracy.
In the last round of debate, House Republicans were criticized for providing a pay-for our plan to support Israel out of the IRS. And the theory is that, well, it's just totally unrelated. But a pay-for the things we are doing, that is always related. It is only in Washington, certainly not in many of our state capitals, where you can have an ambition to go fund something and then not identify the offset that would naturally allow you to engage in that. And the only real substantive debate I've heard in favor of this bill is that it does good pay increases for our service members, and undeniably that has universal agreement within this body. But I think about the 8,600 service members who were forced to separate from our military because of an ill-conceived, now withdrawn vaccine requirement. And we were told over and over again that there would be back pay and reparations and restoration of rank for those people who were improperly told that they could not express their patriotism through military service because they didn't want to take an experimental vaccine. And yet that is totally absent in this legislation. And so in communities like mine that are military heavy, the 5% pay increase will be very welcome. But every one of our military families knows someone who now is not able to have their job, who has seen impact to their spouses, to their marriages, to their children because of this mandate. And we ought to have really taken care of those great folks. We didn't in this bill. And I am all about compromise. But to me, compromise ought to reflect the work of the House and the Senate and then linking those matters up. Neither the House nor the Senate version of this bill dealt with extending spying authorities, as my colleague from Pennsylvania, Mr. Perry, said. That was something that was added in, so that's the process objection. Not that we're unable to compromise on that which we present different views on. It's when a totally new issue just parachutes in and drops on what would otherwise be legislation we would want to agree to.